Welcome to the Mid-Ohio Valley Public Forum video podcast. This podcast features issues of interest to the residents of the Mid-Ohio Valley area. The coronavirus pandemic has changed civic life greatly throughout our country.
This is an election year, and one of the things that has changed is that candidates cannot get out there and campaign the way they normally would. Generally, this time of year, you would be out there knocking on doors and going to all kinds of festivals and fairs and civic meetings where you can meet and greet the voters and shake their hands. You can't do that this year.
So many of our initial podcasts will be interviews with candidates for local, state, and federal office. If you're a candidate and you're interested in being interviewed, you can contact us through our Facebook page, that's MOV Public Forum, or via email, movpublicforum@gmail.com.
This evening we'll be interviewing Richard Ojeda. Richard is running for U.S. Senate for the state of West Virginia. Welcome, Richard. We're glad you could join us this evening.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys having me on your show.
With that, we'll dive right in. Give us your best 1-minute intro pitch speech.
Well, ultimately, I feel that, I am the one that has the best opportunity to be able to turn a red seat blue in Washington, D.C. I'm retired, 24 years military. I spent 4 years in the classroom. I was a former West Virginia state senator. My first legislative session, I was able to make West Virginia the 29th state for medical cannabis, and I did that because I am the squeaky wheel that gets the grease. I make noise, but I make noise for the right reasons. And I hope that the people out there will research me and will see that I stand up for unions. I stand up for the working class citizens, veterans, our elderly. And I would like to create opportunities for those who live in poverty to elevate themselves out of poverty with a hand up.
Oh, Richard, thank you for your service. All the candidates are different. You all have different skills, knowledge, backgrounds. What is it that sets you apart from the other candidates running for Senate in this election?
I think that, we have to just look at my past. I'm a person that I'm an alpha male. When I see something that I believe in, I'm willing to fight for it. And that's how I am. And I'm not scared to stand up and speak the things that need to be said. I don't walk on eggshells around nobody. We have a serious situation in this country and definitely in our state. And we deserve to have somebody going to Washington, D.C. that's going to finally stand up for our people. And that absolutely will be me.
So that sounds like that's a great segue into the next question. What's the motivation that made you decide to step up and run for office now?
Well, when I ran for Congress, the issues that we face here in West Virginia are the same issues that people face all over the country, which was why I know that I took that short run for the presidency of the United States. At the end of the day, I think that West Virginia deserves to have recognition, to be recognized for the things that we've done for this country. But I also think that we desperately need someone to go to Washington, D.C. and stand up for our people. I think that our state, and I hate to say it like this, seems like it's dying. We're losing citizens at an alarming rate. We don't have opportunities here. I think that if the right person goes to Washington, D.C. and can secure opportunities, not only will it keep people in our state, but it will finally convince people to come home. Come back home to West Virginia. Come back home to West Virginia and teach our children school. Come back home to West Virginia and work where you can be closer to your family.
So, Richard, what do you think is your wow factor? What is the one thing about you that if the voter knows it might make them say, wow, I'm going to vote for that guy?
Well, there's quite a few things. I think if you just listen to the things that I do, how I do live videos constantly. And the reason for that's because I'm the guy that says, hey, I want you to have just as good access to me as lobbyists ever do. I think that, I should be willing to stand in front of you and let you know what's going on in my life. So I think that's one of the major issues. Another issue is a lot of people don't know that I won my state Senate race from the emergency room in Charleston Area Medical Center, because 2 days before I won my state Senate race, I was struck in the back of the head with a pipe, rolled over unconscious, and had 8 bones broken in my face. I got 58 metal plates in my face. That did not stop me from fighting for people. So nothing is going to stop me from fighting for people. And that's exactly what I want to do. It's what I'm good at. This, like I said, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and no one is squeakier than I. Fact.
So if or when you're elected, tell us one thing you really want to accomplish during your term.
Well, it's hard to pinpoint the one thing because there's quite a few things. Number one, Citizens United, overturning Citizens United. We got to get big money out of politics. People like myself have the hardest times because we are always fighting against money, and we need to stop that. But I'll tell you what, right to work legislation. I want to do away with right to work. Our unions are what gives our working class citizens a seat at the table. It's what gives them collective bargaining. It's what brings safety to the jobs. And what right to work does is attack our unions. I'm against it wholeheartedly. I want to go to Washington, D.C. I want to fight for unions. I want to be the guy who checks Big Pharma. Our state, West Virginia, has become the proving grounds for those opioids. And let me tell you something. It's time we send somebody to Washington, D.C. that holds Big Pharma accountable for what they do. I want to end forever wars. I'm sick and tired of sending people overseas to get broke only to come home and not get fixed. So I can't just pinpoint it to one thing.
Well, Richard, senators serve as the representative for all the people of West Virginia in our national government. There are different theories about how this representation should work. One theory is that the people elect a senator to simply carry out the wishes of the people. Another theory is that people elect a senator because they trust that person's judgment and believe that they can best use their judgment to represent the people. What theory do you incline toward?
Well, I think that both of those actually have validity to them. I mean, obviously, there's things that a senator is going to make decisions on in Washington, D.C. that they believe best is going to affect their people. But we need transparency in our country. I'm the guy who is telling lobbyists. Okay, basically the answer, is kind of, it's kind of both things have validity here. Obviously we want to think that the people that we send forward can make decisions in our absence for us, but we also hope that when they make those decisions that they are always thinking about the people. And now, I'm the guy who wants to make lobbyists wear body cameras. I think that we should see everything that goes on behind the scenes, because if we did, our legislators will be less likely to always sell us out, which sadly, in many cases, we see that happen often. So, I believe in things like this. I do live videos, and I do them constantly, and I'm going to continue doing live videos. I enjoy being able to have a direct line of communication with my constituents, and I think that that's the way we need to start going towards, and that's for everybody.
So what are the top 3 laws or policies that you would like to see Congress enact?
Top 3 laws? Well, I mean, there's things, like I said, I want to overturn Citizens United. I would love to see that happen. I want to absolutely get rid of right to work legislation. Those are 2 things that are very important to me. I also want to... There's all kinds of different areas where I want to go in terms of like the opioid epidemic and the things that I believe we need to do to stop allowing companies to use our people as lab rats, which is exactly what they did in West Virginia. So, I mean, there's all, do I want Medicare for all? Yes, I do want Medicare for all. There's all kinds of things that, I think are important that we need people in Washington, D.C. to be pushing for. So, but there's a lot of things that we don't do. We don't take care of our elderly. We don't take care of the disabled in this country in the way that we should. So those are things that I want to go to Washington, D.C. and also work on.
We are often our harshest critics. So this is a two-part question. What do you think is your worst quality, and what do you think is your best quality?
I think that my best quality is my drive, where when I see something, I don't let things stand in my way. If I have a goal in something, I'm going to work my butt off. I'm going to fight for it if I have to. Just like the medical cannabis in West Virginia, they told me don't even try. Now, where's my downside? I guess my downside is that sometimes I say things and I light into people, and I don't do it like I'm a typical politician. I've been told many times, you're kind of brash. You need to tone things down. A lot of people look at that and they think that that's anger in me. To me, that's passion. I don't fight for things unless I believe in them wholeheartedly. And I know that a lot of people see me for the first time and automatically assume that I am a loose cannon that wants to fist fight everybody, and that's not true. I want to get things done. But like I said, sometimes I do make people think that way.
Well, with that, we are on to getting to know Richard Ojeda, the person, not the candidate. If you had to come up with your one single most favorite thing or place in our state, what would it be? Not the people, they're not a thing or a place. Well, we all love West Virginians.
Well, I tell you, I that's one of the things about campaigning, where you are driving all over. I will tell you that, if you want to talk about beauty, Pocahontas County. But there's lots of other places that are just absolutely breathtakingly beautiful. Nicholas County, Summersville. You could just go. There's so many, all over this entire state. You will find beauty. I live in the coal fields of West Virginia, and I live in the mountains. And I'm going to tell you right now, it only takes you about a 5-minute hike up a hill to where you can look and say, this was carved by the hand of God, and that's all over our state.
So, Richard, what are your own personal core values?
When I was in the military for 24 years, I was given a value system, and I believe in that value system to this day. Loyalty, duty, respect, honor, selfless service, integrity, and personal courage. And each one of those values that were instilled in me in the military, I see that they are absolutely in need in society today. And I try to follow those values. And I think that they've done me fairly well.
So you mentioned passion a few minutes ago. What would you say you as the individual are most passionate about?
Well, it's tough. Yeah, I spent 4 years in the classroom, and I saw how hard our teachers and school service personnel work. I've spent time in the correctional facilities, and I've seen how those people up there, they work so hard. To me, I want to fight for those types of people. But there's so many things that I'm passionate about. I absolutely despise government corruption. And I think that we need to attack it on all levels, local levels, all the way up to the national level. So, when you're talking about passionate and being passionate or passion, there's so many different things. When I fought for medical cannabis, I was almost being blackballed in the beginning of my first legislative session, because even the Democrats said, man, you're going to make a lot of enemies here. But we know that we've got people all across this state that struggle with illnesses now that we know medical cannabis can help. So I can't sit silent when I know that we can help people. and we still have people in positions of power that choose not to.
So, Richard, what do you like to do in your off time?
Well, I do a lot of research. I like to travel. I'm blessed that I have seen the world, but I'm not done. And I am constantly planning trips when I get spare time to go places and see things that are important to me. A couple of years ago, me and a buddy of mine that I served in the military with, we just decided, hey, let's go to Europe and backpack across Europe. So for 28 days, we went from Dublin, Ireland, all the way to Budapest, Hungary. And let me tell you, going to Dachau concentration camp and seeing that ground where so many people were murdered, it's something that hits you. But that's, to me, it's important for me. We went to Omaha Beach, and I stood on that sand and I looked out at how far the water was, and I thought about how hard it must have been to climb off of those crafts and move across that long stretch of sand while our heroes were under intense enemy fire. I love those things. As you can see behind me, I like to also kind of, dabble in books from time to time. But that's what I like to do.
I had a great uncle at Omaha Beach, so I haven't been there, but that's a place I'd like to see.
It is one of the most humbling places you could ever go to, and we're planning on going back. And I want to go to St. Mire-Glisse. I want to go to Point du Hoc, where the Rangers had to climb the 200-foot cliffs to get to the guns that were actually keeping our ships way out from coming closer to the beach. It's just amazing.
What would you say is most unique about you as a person? I mean, backpacking through Europe's pretty unique. What else?
As my 24 years in the military, I was a combat soldier. I was a combat engineer. I volunteered for 20 years to jump out of airplanes and rappel from helicopters and do all those things. I loved that life. I didn't like always having to leave my family for years at a time to go over to combat zones. But, when you go to a place like that and you're in the enemy's backyard and you realize that every single person that is with you would willingly lay down their life for you and you them, it's something that, when you leave it, you miss it. You do. I tell people all the time, it wouldn't bother me if I got called and said, we need you back in Syria or Iraq. I would probably grab my gear and I would probably go, because it's to be with people that, to me, are the best people on the face of the earth.
Well, with that, we'd like to give you a few minutes to tell us and the voters anything you feel like we've missed or that we need to know, including how to get in touch with you, how to get more information on your campaign, how to get involved or donate, etc.
Well, first off, www.voteojeda2020.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. But what I really want to say is I know that when I resigned my Senate seat, that it really made a lot of folks feel like I had abandoned them. I can assure you, I resigned my seat because I personally did not think it was right for me to be running for another race and leave a seat empty that deserved to have a voice. I know why teachers and school service personnel were angered that I gave up my seat, because they knew that every single day that I was on that floor, I fought for them. And I apologize for giving up my seat. Hindsight, if I would have known back then I would have kept my seat. But I thought that I was doing the right thing. I am asking every single working class citizen, every person that is a member of a union, I'm asking teachers and school service personnel, I'm asking everybody across this state to please let me be your voice in Washington, D.C. You know, give me a chance to go there. I may be brash. I may seem like I'm fired up all the time and about to explode, but know that I do that because I'm trying. It's passion that I have towards helping people have better. We deserve better. When the rich wage war, it's the poor who fight and die. Nobody answers this nation's call more than West Virginians. This nation was built by the steel that come from the coal that come from our mountains. We deserve respect. Let me go to Washington, D.C., and let me demand and fight and win that respect for each and every one of us.
Richard, I want to thank you so much for coming and talking to us this evening. I hope the voters hear your message and respond, and best of luck to you in your campaign. And everyone else, remember, wash your hands.